The galaxy was cold and vast, a place of endless stars and empty spaces. The entire world burned in silent wars. Civilizations rose and fell like tides. Among them, the galactic overlords ruled with power no one could match. They had fleets that could destroy planets, weapons that could shatter moons, and minds trained to bend weaker species to their will. To them, the small, scattered human worlds were nothing, weak, insignificant, not even worth watching. One such overlord, a young commander named Zarek, had built his life on victory. His homeworld, a jewel of swirling seas and crystal cities, had never seen defeat. His people trusted him. He trusted them. But the galaxy had its own plans. It began with whispers, strange signals in the void, worlds disappearing without fire, fleets lost to storms of energy no sensor could explain. Zarek's advisors tried to calm him, but he could feel the threat in his bones. A shadow was moving across the stars, unseen, an unstoppable dot. Then the war came. Not in a single strike, but like a tide of knives. Neighboring systems rebelled. Betrayal spread through the overlord ranks. Friends turned to enemies. Fleets that once followed Zarek's command without question now fired on him. His cities, his people, his life, everything burned in hours. Explosions lit the skies of his world. Crystal towers shattered. Oceans boiled. Zarek watched as his soldiers fought to hold the capital. He ran through streets of fire, through screaming crowds, through ruins where his ancestors had walked. Pain tore through him, not just from loss, but from fear he had never known. For the first time, he understood helplessness. The overlords had faced wars before. They had survived betrayals and disasters, but nothing had prepared them for this. Something in the galaxy had shifted. The storms were not natural. The betrayals were not mere greed. There was an intelligence behind it, cold and cunning, a force Number Overlord could control. Amid the chaos, Zarek noticed something strange. Small human ships, almost invisible, moving quietly through the battle zones. They did not fight, not yet. They did not flee either. They were there, surviving, observing, weak, yes, almost nothing compared to his fleets, but somehow they were alive when everyone else fell. He barely registered it at first. Humans had always been a minor nuisance, scattered colonies of weak beings with nothing to offer. But now, seeing them dodge destruction with calm patience, Zarek felt a flicker of unease. There was something in their eyes he could not read, something the galaxy had never taught him to fear or respect. By the time the fires had burned out, Zarek's world was gone. His cities were ash. His people were dead or scattered across the void. His fleet had been destroyed. All that remained was him, floating in the wreckage of his empire, staring into the stars. Pain, loss, fear. He had never known the depth of any of these feelings until now. And then he saw it, in the distance, moving through the ruins of space, a pattern he could not understand. Tiny lights, almost insignificant, weaving between wrecked ships, a strange energy in their path. There were humans, still alive, still moving, still ... watching. Zarek's heart tightened. The galaxy had always been his to command. Everything had always bent to the overlords. But now, something was coming from the edge of the void. Something small, something weak, something that made even the strongest overlord feel the first spark of fear. He did not know it yet. But these humans, insignificant, fragile humans, would not stay weak for long. And the galaxy would soon learn that survival alone could become a weapon. The humans were small, fragile, scattered across dying worlds and battered colonies. To the overlords, they were nothing, weak, insignificant, a species barely worthy of attention. But weakness can hide strength in the shadow of destruction. Humans survived where others would have perished. Their ships were slow, poorly armed, and few in number. Yet they moved with purpose, avoiding the ruins of Zarek's fleets, dodging storms that tore through the void, and adapting to dangers no one had prepared them for. Every loss hardened them. Every scar made them stronger. On a shattered colony, a human settlement clung to life. Buildings were broken, food was scarce, and disease spread fast. The overlords would have called them doomed, but humans did not give up. They built new shelters from wreckage, shared what little they had, and protected the weakest first. It was not technology that made them dangerous. Their weapons were crude compared to alien fleets. Their ships could not outrun the overlord destroyers. Their minds were not trained to manipulate others through psychic control. It was their will, their stubbornness, their refusal to surrender. Humans fought not because they believed they would win, but because they could not imagine giving up. Every obstacle became a challenge to overcome. Every threat became a reason to grow stronger. They adapted in ways aliens could not predict. When the sky burned with alien weapons, humans learned to hide among asteroids, to use debris as shields, and to anticipate attacks that seemed impossible. They studied patterns in the chaos and found openings no one else could see. Even pain became a weapon. Wounds and loss did not weaken them. They sharpened their minds and hardened their spirits. Humans mourned, yes, but then they moved forward, turning grief into strategy. The death of one world became the survival of the next. The collapse of one colony became a lesson for all others. The overlords noticed Zarek, still adrift among the ruins of his fleet, could not take his eyes off them. These humans, small, fragile, and untrained, were moving through the wreckage with a strange calm. They were learning, always learning, and they were multiplying their effect, with every loss striking where the overlords least expected. Yet even the humans did not know their full potential. They did not see themselves as strong. They did not understand how their refusal to surrender, their emotional resilience, and their relentless curiosity made them predators in a galaxy built to destroy them. One human ship slipped past a destroyed overlord station, carrying survivors and stolen supplies. Inside, engineers studied alien weapons and systems. They did not just copy them, they improved them. They combined human ingenuity with alien technology in ways no one could predict. Elsewhere, another group of humans used the chaos to explore strange cosmic anomalies. Black holes, energy storms, and gravitational tears threatened to crush them. Yet they mapped the dangers, tested the limits of their ships, and learned secrets that no alien had ever uncovered. Through it all, humans remained remarkably alive. Pain, loss, fear, these did not break them. They bent it into purpose. Every failed colony, every destroyed ship, every death became fuel. They survived when survival seemed impossible, not because they were strong, but because they refused to stop. Carok watched them silently from the void. The overlords had underestimated them, laughed at them, called them insignificant, and yet here they were, survivors, learners, hunters in the shadows of the stars. And then the humans discovered something strange, something in the ruins of an overlord outpost that made even their own scientists hesitate. A pattern, a signal, an energy that pulsed with unknown power. It was unlike anything they had seen. That humans did not yet understand it. They did not know what it meant, but it moved, it waited, and it watched. In that moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath, for the humans were about to take their first real step toward a power no overlord could have imagined, and the shadows of the stars were no longer empty. The galaxy did not wait. The overlords had watched the humans survive. They had laughed at them at first, calling them weak, pathetic, and unworthy of notice. But survival alone had drawn attention. Now the overlords moved, fleets of unimaginable size converging on human colonies. Weapons that could vaporize planets hung in orbit like death itself. Humans were ready, but only in part. Their ships were small, their numbers few. Their weapons, though clever, were fragile. They fought with courage, not firepower. Each human fleet tried to intercept the overlord armadas using hit-and-run tactics, hiding in asteroid fields and striking in ways no alien could predict. The cost was high. Entire colonies were destroyed. Cities turned to ash. Families vanished in bursts of alien fire. Star systems that had survived centuries were gone in hours. Every victory came with a heavy price. Pain tore through human hearts. Grief and loss became daily companions. Hunger, injury, and fear haunted every step. And yet, humans did not stop. On one battered colony, engineers worked night and day to repair damaged ships. They scavenged broken parts from alien warships, learning to twist technology to their own needs. Every failure became a lesson. Every loss sharpened their minds. They were not the strongest, but they were clever, stubborn, and unyielding. Human adaptability became a weapon. Where overlord fleets expected simple defenses, they found traps, ambushes, and devices that turned their own weapons against them. Humans used the debris of destruction as cover, as shields, and even as projectiles. They learned patterns in alien attacks and anticipated moves no overlord had considered. But survival was not enough. The overlords were relentless. They sent psychic agents to control human minds, hoping to crush hope and obedience. They unleashed genetically engineered predators to hunt humans on barren planets. They bombarded settlements with energy storms and radiation fields designed to erase life itself. Pain became the forge of power. Humans felt loss and fear, but they turned it into action. Children learned to operate. Scientists rewired alien weapons. Soldiers fought beyond exhaustion. Humanity refused to bend, refused to surrender. The galaxy began to notice. These creatures, small and fragile, were learning faster than expected. Zaro K watched from the void. Still adrift among his fallen fleets, he had seen humans survive storms and sabotage with nothing but instinct and stubbornness. He had thought it curious. Now he felt concern. They were not just surviving, they were adapting. And in the eyes of a commander who had conquered thousands of worlds, adaptability was dangerous. Humans themselves began to sense a shift. Amid the chaos, they discovered patterns in the Overlord fleet formations. They noticed weaknesses in alien weapons that no one had exploited before. They began experimenting with strikes that could cripple the largest destroyers. And then the unexpected happened. One human fleet, battered and small, struck the heart of an Overlord command station. They did not destroy it entirely yet, but they left a mark. Alien sensors scrambled. Alarms rang across the fleet. And most importantly, the humans learned something new. The Overlords were not invincible. As the dust of battle settled, humans gathered survivors, repaired their ships, and marked every loss in victory. They were battered, hungry, and bleeding, but unbroken. They had suffered more than any species should. They had seen worlds burn and families die, and still, they pressed forward, driven by pain, by stubbornness, and by the simple human refusal to give up. Far in the darkness of space, Zarak felt a chill he had never known. Something in the survivors, something in their stirring a new fear. A quiet, creeping dread that whispered through the galaxy. These humans were learning too fast. And then the humans discovered something in the wreckage of the Overlord station. A technology, a signal, or a weapon, unlike anything they had seen before. Its purpose was unclear, but its presence was undeniable. It moved, it waited, and it watched. The humans did not yet understand it, but whatever it was about to change everything, and the Overlords would soon realize that the hunt was no longer one-sided. Humanity underestimated. The Overlords still laughed. They had seen the humans survive storms, evade fleets, and strike back when least expected. And yet, in their pride, they called it luck. They called it primitive instinct. They called it nothing worth fearing. Weak creatures, clinging to broken worlds, barely able to hold a weapon. That was humanity. To them. Zarok, single quotes, his mind burned with unease. He had witnessed humans adapt, survive, and even strike fear into minor Overlord commanders. But the full weight of their persistence had not yet sunk in. They were small, fragile, insignificant, and yet they endured. He could not explain it, and that alone terrified him. On countless planets, humans faced near implausible odds. Overlord, psychic agents probed minds, attempting to enslave thought and crush resistance. Cities were flattened by orbital bombardments. Star systems collapsed under superior fleets, yet humans endured. They did not surrender. They did not cry. They did not retreat. Every failure, every loss, became a lesson. Every death sparked innovation. Every wound became strategy. Humans learned from pain faster than any machine could calculate. Where the Overlords expected despair, they found determination. Where the Overlords expected surrender, they found cunning and unpredictability. Weakness became a shield, survival became a weapon, and grief became fuel. In the depths of space, a small human fleet moved like shadows. Tiny, battered ships wove through debris, striking where the Overlords least expected. They sabotaged supply lines, destroyed advanced weapons before they could fire, and stole intelligence that no alien mind could guard. One human strike alone could turn the tide of an entire battle. And still, the Overlords laughed. They called humans stubborn fools. They said any species so small could never survive the galaxy's trials. They ignored the signs. They ignored the victories. They ignored the growing patterns that suggested humans were more than they appeared. But humans were learning. They were learning faster than any overlord anticipated. Survivors gathered in secret, sharing knowledge and improving their ships. Engineers rewired alien tech. Scientists decoded overlord strategies. Soldiers trained under fire. Every human understood something the overlords could not. Survival was not just about strength, it was about mind, spirit, and refusal to give up. In one corner of the galaxy, a human scout discovered ruins of an ancient overlord outpost. Within it were weapons, tools, and knowledge left unused for centuries. To the humans, it was a treasure. They studied it, adapted it, and began to combine it with their own designs. They did not yet understand the full potential, but each day, each discovery, made them deadlier. Z. AROK watched quietly from the shadows. The overlords mocked, scorned, and ignored these humans. Yet every strike, every raid, every small victory chipped away at his certainty. There was something in these humans he could not measure, a spark he could not suppress. He began to sense the truth. They were not weak, not in the way he had thought. And then, the humans found it, deep in the ruins of a destroyed overlord command station. They uncovered a strange energy pulse, a pattern that seemed alive. It hummed with power. It moved without form. It seemed aware. The humans did not yet know what it was, or what it could do. But instinct told them it could change everything. Zarek felt a shiver he could not shake. The overlords had laughed at the humans. They had mocked them as weak. And now, a small, fragile species was beginning to touch forces no alien had mastered. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and the consequences of that mistake were about to unfold, for the humans were learning, adapting, and surviving in ways the overlords could not foresee. And the shadows of the stars were no longer safe. The galaxy was holding its breath. The overlords still believed humans were weak. They still thought the tiny fleets and battered colonies posed no threat. They had not counted on one thing. Humans never surrendered. Not when worlds burned, not when friends died, not when death stared them in the face. And now, humanity struck. Using every lesson learned in the fires of war, humans moved with precision. Small ships coordinated strikes that confused massive overlord fleets. Crippled weapon stations were turned against their creators. Ancient alien technology, scavenged and rebuilt, became a force the overlords had never imagined. Humans combined ingenuity, instinct, and sheer stubbornness into a weapon of unpredictable power. They were hunters, apex predators disguised as fragile prey. On one battlefield, human ships darted through a ruined system. Overlord destroyers opened fire, confident that survival was impossible. But humans did not flee. They lured the enemy into traps of debris and ambushes. They struck from blind spots, attacked weaknesses no alien engineer expected, and disappeared before retaliation. Pain, loss, and fear had forged them into something more than survivors. Humans were unpredictable, relentless, and fearless. Death did not stop them, it sharpened them. Each fallen comrade became a lesson. Each destroyed ship became a tool. Each wound became fuel for the next strike. Zarok watched in disbelief. His fleets were strong, his weapons unmatched, his fleets enormous. Yet humans moved faster, struck harder, and vanished before he could react. For the first time in his life, he felt the icy grip of fear. The humans had adapted to the galaxy itself, and they were learning faster than he could command. Then came the final assault. A human fleet, small but perfectly coordinated, approached the Overlord command station at the heart of a critical star system. The aliens expected a routine, scouting attack. They did not expect a calculated strike that disabled entire fleets, destroyed weapon systems, and cut off supply lines in a single move. Humans did not just survive, they dominated. Each move was precise, each strike timed with ruthless efficiency. Their enemies, once confident, were thrown into chaos. Ships collided, energy fields fleets shattered under the cunning of a species no one had respected. And in the midst of this, humans unleashed their secret weapon, the strange energy pulse discovered in the ruins of the Overlord station. It moved with intelligence, it struck with precision, and it amplified every human skill and instinct. Where humans touched, systems failed, fleets faltered. and the Overlord's confidence shattered. The Overlords had laughed at them, mocked them, thought them fragile and insignificant. Now, the galaxy watched as humans turned the tables. Ships that should have been invincible fell before their ingenuity. Worlds that should have been lost became human strongholds. The tide had shifted. Humanity was no longer prey, it was the hunter. Zarok felt the final blow. His command station, the heart of his empire, was collapsing. His fleet, once unchallenged, was scattered and destroyed. Fear, pain, and disbelief coursed through him. The humans had survived everything the galaxy could throw at them, and now they were punishing those who had underestimated them. And even as the Overlords fled, Zarok could see it. Humans were not done. Their strength was growing, their cunning deepening, and the galaxy had never faced anything like it. The apex predators of the stars had emerged, and the universe would never look at humanity the same way again. For the small, weak, insignificant, humans had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and the Overlords would never forget it. The galaxy was silent. For centuries, the Overlords had ruled without challenge. They had believed in their power, in their fleets, in their